Using exposure and response prevention for OCD can be difficult. It appears that individuals will research the internet, they'll try to find all the rule books, how to actually do it, and they'll keep researching and researching and researching. Sometimes this can actually be a compulsion. Sometimes these individuals are looking for relief through their research. They tried exposure and response prevention and it wasn't helpful for them. Often, individuals will start looking for some tips. A resource that has been extremely helpful and is written by, in my opinion, one of the top OCD and anxiety-related therapists in the field, Dr. Fred Penzel. I've had the opportunity to meet and train from Dr. Penzel on many occasions. Here we are in this picture. Dr. Penzel wrote the 25 tips for succeeding with your OCD treatment. With permission, Dr. Penzel has allowed me to share these tips with you. So tip number 1, always expect the unexpected. You can have an obsessive thought at any time, at any place. Do not be surprised when old or even new thoughts occur. Don't let it throw you. Be prepared to use your therapy tools at any time and at any place. We want to get out of the habit of having safe places and not safe places. I only do exposures from 5 to 6 every day. I only do exposures in my home. I do not do it if I leave. We want to do exposures at any time, any place. Also, if new thoughts appear, be sure to tell your therapist so you can keep them informed. For the most part, if they are a specialist, there is nothing they haven't heard. And sometimes it actually kind of makes them excited because they're ready to help you with that next task. Tip number 2, be willing to accept the risk. Risk is a huge part of life, and as such, it cannot be completely gotten rid of. Remember that recovering is the biggest risk of all. Sometimes individuals will worry that if I don't worry about this anymore, if I don't feel anxiety about this anymore, then these fears will be true. It will really mean something. Individuals worry that that feeling that they have that is keeping them safe is no longer going to be there, and they're actually going to react or act on these new thoughts or feelings. But allowing yourself to recover seems like a big risk because you're doing a lot of treatment to get there. Number 3, never seek reassurance from yourself or others. I know we've been taught our entire life whenever there's a problem to be like, it's gonna be all right, it's not that big of a deal, you'll be fine. But instead, tell yourself the worst will happen. It's happening, it's already happened. Reassurance will cancel out the effects of any therapy homework you do. It will prevent you from improving. Reassurance seeking is a compulsion, no matter how you may try to justify it. We don't use logic when it comes to treatment. It just does not work. Number 4, always try hard to agree with all obsessive thoughts. Never analyze, never question, or argue with them. The questions they raise are not real questions, and there are no real answers to them. Try not to get too detailed when you're agreeing. Simply say, the thoughts are true and they're real. Even if they feel like they're scary thoughts, even if they feel like they're inappropriate thoughts, it doesn't matter. Agreeing with the thought means you are saying, I don't care about you anymore, and I am no longer going down that route to figure it out. Number 5, don't waste time trying to prevent or to not think of your thoughts. This will only have the opposite effect and will lead you to think of more thoughts. Studies have shown that you cannot effectively stop or push your thoughts. Your motto can be, if you want to think about them less, think about them more. Many feel like this is such a risky task because if you think about it more, you're going to have it more, right? Think about jumping in that swimming pool. If I put my toe in there, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. Get used to that. Put my foot in there, uncomfortable. Get used to that. Put my leg in. It's a big, long process. I'm trying not to engage with it. It's going to be more painful. But if I just jump in there, it's going to be painful. It's going to feel so uncomfortable, but I'm going to get used to it way quicker. Think about it more. Number 6, try not to be a black and white or an all or nothing thinker. Do not tell yourself that one slip up means that you're total failure and I can't believe it and you're going to go all the way back to where you started. If you slip and do a compulsion, you can always turn it around and do something to cancel it. Re-expose yourself to that thing that you did the compulsion for. The good news is that you are in this for the long haul, and you always get another chance. It is normal to make mistakes when learning these new skills. Did I mention they're a skill? It's not easy. It takes a lot of effort, just like anything in life. It happens to everyone now and then. Accept it. Even if you have a big setback, don't let it throw you. Remember the saying, a lapse is not a relapse. This means that you never really have to go back to square one. To do that, you'd have to forget everything you've already learned up to this point. And really, that's not possible. And as they say in AA, you can always start your day over. And realistically, you can always start the next 5 minutes over, the next 30 seconds over, the next minute over. Do not wait for the next day to start again. Your time is now. Number 7, remember that dealing with your symptoms is your responsibility. Don't involve others in your therapy homework unless your therapist tells you to. Unless they really are there and willing to help and you can accept their help. You need to do this on your own sometimes because they're not going to always be there to push you, to tell you what you need to do. This treatment is yours. Number 8, don't get too impatient with your progress. Do not compare yourself to somebody else. Do not even try to figure out how long it took them to get over this specific fear or topic. Everyone goes at their own pace. Instead, try to simply focus and carry out your therapy homework one day at a time. They are them, you are you. Number 9, when you have a choice, always go towards the anxiety, never away from it. The only way to overcome a fear is to face it. You can't run. You cannot run away from your thoughts. So you really have no choice but to face them. Whether it's now, whether it's 10 years, but either way, you're facing it. If you want to recover, you have to do this. Number 10, when faced with 2 possible choices of what to confront, choose the more difficult of the 2. I know we create hierarchies where you're working on a smaller step and you're building up and you're building up and you're building up, but I don't want you to take the easy way out. I don't want your brain to say this is harder than this one. For some, they may need to do this, but if you have the choice, take the most difficult. You can handle it. Do this with a therapist. You're way stronger than you think you are. Number 11, review your therapy homework assignments daily. Even if you think you already know them all, it's easy to overlook them, especially the ones that you don't look forward to doing. Number 12, if your therapist gives you an assignment and you really don't feel ready to do it, speak up, let them know. A lot of people want to please their therapist, which is great, but at the same time, the treatment's yours. Let it be yours. The therapist is there to support and provide advice. You should be able to have a say in your own therapy. If something works, let them know. If something doesn't work, let them know. The goal is for the homework to produce some anxiety. This is expected. Tolerate this anxiety. Let your brain learn something new. Do not let it overwhelm you. It's not going to cause a setback unless you make it cause a setback. Don't be afraid to stretch yourself a bit whenever you can. When we start putting limits, it seems like people tend to do the bare minimum. Number 13, don't wait for the perfect moment to start your therapy or homework assignments. You're not going to feel ready. Motivation comes from doing the things you don't want to do. Procrastination is a feature of many people's OCD. Why would you want to feel anxiety on purpose? Doesn't make sense, right? But it's the thing that is going to make you feel better with the mindsets of changing the way that you behave. Do not wait for that perfect moment because the moment is now. Number 14, don't be sidetracked by perfectionism. I don't want you to be perfect. Seriously, be imperfect. If you feel like you have to be perfect with your treatment, do it incorrectly. That's the exposure. If you're trying to do it perfect, it's going to be really hard for you to move forward. If you find yourself obsessing about having to do this perfectly, you risk turning this into another compulsion. Watch out having to do your homework according to the same rigid rules each time. I like it when people have a schedule. I'm going to do it every day from here. I'm going to do it here. I'm going to do it when the time comes. But I want you to be open. Do it whenever you can throughout the whole day. I want your schedule to get messed up, but I also want you to have a life. I want you to live. That's what it's all about. Number 15, Try to read over your homework assignments at the start of each day. Like I said, don't assume you already know it. Start your day off with that mindset. I love it when people can wake up and say, I am the person today that is going to risk my OCD. I am the person today that is going to get germs all over me. I am the person today that is going to risk hurting somebody. I'm the person today that is going to risk losing my relationship. Whatever mindset you have, you are that person, and the exposures are going to follow. Number 16, when carrying out assignments, be careful not to provide yourself reassurance, to undo your hard work, telling yourself things like, it's only homework, it's not a real thing that I'm doing. It's not real life, this doesn't really count because this isn't real. Or, my therapist wouldn't ask me to do this if they thought I was in real danger or if I could cause harm to somebody else. Or, I'm only doing this because I'm told to do so. So I'm not really responsible if something actually happens. Remember, we're taking all the logic out of it, all the reassurance seeking. You're gonna do it because you want to do it. You want to risk this anxiety, risk these fears, so your brain can learn something new. Number 17, give your homework your full attention. Focus on what you are doing and let yourself feel the anxiety. Try not to tune it out if possible. We don't want to distract so you don't have to feel anxiety. You can continue living life, but I don't want that mindset to say, I'm going to do this so I don't have to feel anxiety. People sometimes let the homework become a routine and do it very automatically as a way to kind of avoid. With these exposures, you are building this tolerance to what you fear and for what might happen. So stay in the moment. If we want to improve any skill, you stay in the moment. You practice, you do it a lot. Number 18, when faced with a challenging assignment or unexpected challenge, try to look at it as a positive situation. It's an opportunity. Instead of saying, no, I can't believe this happened. I didn't want this to happen today. Why is this happening to me? Instead, you're like, yes, I'm so glad this came up right now because I have the opportunity to do some treatment and I'm so excited. This is gonna feel like acting for a while, but it's gonna be great for you. Opportunities will arise. They're not bad things that are happening. They are opportunities for you to get better. Number 19, try to not rush through your therapy homework. This isn't get to the top of my hierarchy as fast as I can, and once I get that last step, I'm gonna be golden. Take your time. You don't wanna get over it as quickly as possible. That is not the goal. The goal is to retrain your brain. So what is your brain learning if you're trying to get out of the anxiety as fast as you can? You're saying it's a big deal, and you're no longer saying this is a big deal. Number 20, if your homework doesn't really give you any anxiety, tell your therapist. If your exposures don't really cause any anxiety, it isn't going to help that much. It's easy to just have the conversations of like, oh yeah, I'm doing it, and it's great, and it's wonderful, but I'm not telling my therapist because if I do, then they're gonna make it harder for me. That take initiative, make it more difficult for yourself. Tell your therapist. Some assignments can cause some reactions later on. It may take some time for that anxiety to occur. Number 21, it is sometimes possible for your OCD to try to make you doubt yourself, doubt your homework. It may tell you that you are not in the right place for this treatment. Maybe you should go try acupuncture. Maybe you should go take some CBD oil. Maybe you need to go do this other thing because it's gonna be way better than feeling anxiety, right? But those other things don't work. They aren't going to retrain your brain. They are going to be those quick fixes that make you think you're getting better. Remember that OCD is known as the doubting disease. It will try to cast doubt on anything that is important to you. If your brain says, this is not the treatment for me, it's the treatment for you. If it says, you do this, it's gonna make it worse, you're gonna say, yeah, man, I told myself I'm gonna agree with it. It's gonna get worse then, cool, sweet, awesome. Number 22, never forget that you have OCD. This means that you will not always be able to trust your own self. I know this sounds painful sometimes, but especially in the treatment mode, we're not figuring out feelings, we're not figuring out thoughts, especially if they seem to be telling you these negative and extreme things. If you are unsure about something, sometimes we're just gonna treat it as a symptom. Better to do a bit of exposure than not enough. I almost use an equation. If you're feeling anxious, plus this urgency to fix or remove or get away equals OCD. we're just going to chalk it up as OCD and say, sweet, I might be wrong, I might not, but I'm going to do an exposure with it anyway. Number 23, remember that in OCD, the problem is not the anxiety. The problem is the compulsions. It's the way you're reacting to the perceived threats that are coming through. If you think anxiety is the problem, you'll only just do more compulsions to get rid of it, which in turn creates more anxiety. Did you know that? If you recognize the compulsion that you are doing, stop doing it. Be okay feeling that anxiety. The anxiety eventually goes away as you build up this tolerance to it and react as if you really just don't care about the thought anymore. Number 24, always take a moment to be proud of your own efforts and recognize your successes. It's a good way to keep you motivated. Write it on your bathroom mirror every morning. I did this. Take a sticky note. I did this. Put it on there and just make it grow. Boast about your successes. Often people will look back at things that they did and they're like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this used to bother me. That is so silly. But you can't get those experiences if you don't track this stuff. And tell yourself you're just awesome. Number 25. Overall, don't forget, OCD rarely makes much sense. We don't need to make sense of it. The things that you thought would make you better only make you worse. And the things that you thought would make you worse are the very things that are making you better. Weird, right? Move closer to the threats, to the anxiety, to the perceived threats. These are the 25 tips outlined by Fred Penzel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you're able to use these 25 tips in your life. Pick some that you need daily to remind yourself that you are the boss, that when you slip, you have a resource. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.